So, where am I? Let's see how this works.
He works with my team. We work with them with regards to work packages and patterns and so on. It doesn't actually report
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As usual, half.
Not our smallest.
So,
This is true.
if you look at the smaller
I think the smallest was you three. I
Is he doing the same?
think it was a SharePoint
Yeah.
book, if I remember correctly.
I don't know why.
I don't know why. What's the hate for SharePoint? I don't know.
Thanks for sharing, mate.
Sorry?
Why not?
Yeah, they why not?
That's harsh, isn't it? Just as well I'm now a DevOps person, I've gone back into DevOps from the SharePoint.
Good move.
So you're still alive?
I survived, but oh geez, the stories.
It's not going away, it's just. Oh, no.
Well, it's no longer SharePoint, it's now Office 365, and it's now going to be Microsoft 365, I think.
Yeah.
You're going to find. Okay, so today's just not going to be anything in particular. It's just going to be basically I was going to go through some of the updates that have been gone into the Azure service since I last talked about it, and I'm just going to go through some of the blog posts that I've found quite interesting over the last month or two. As usual, I'm recording this out to Twitch. It'll be on the YouTube channel later on if you want to have a watch, and this will be up on the website as well. So anyway, first things first, from the July 1st sprint 154. For those of you that don't know, there's now an Azure DevOps CLI, it's now general availability. So anything you can do through the UI, you can now do through the command line, which I think will please some people, but not others. Getting it to work is an interesting thing too, because I think they've changed the whole way that Azure CLI was working since I last used it. You can now add modules in. I think it's pretty cool, it's pretty nice. Azure boards, work item live reload. For those of us that work in the Azure boards a lot, it's been a pain in the bum when you're editing one, someone else is editing another one, you make an update and save it and wipes their changes as well. Now, provided you're not editing the same field, it'll automatically refresh now. Now, bear in mind, these are all on the service. This is not in the on-prem version, okay? I do know that there are some government departments that don't want to go to the cloud because of security issues, i.e. all your contractors can see all your code all the time now, so they don't like that. So anyway, so it's on-prem only. Sorry, on service only. You can manage iteration and area pass from the command line, once again using Azure CLI. The work item parent column is an option now. I thought this was pretty nice. I'll see if I can find my... I'll look at my project over here, one of my projects. So this one, Parts Unlimited. If I have a look at my board and a look at my work items, you'll notice that at the moment you can't see the parent. If you now go to column options, and if I was to add a column, I can now add a parent column. Not in this one though, so it hasn't rolled out yet.
Yeah, I found it all that's available.
Yeah, it's only in some of the books. I think the new one I created, it does it in, but what that shows you is, basically on the side here, you'll actually see the parent work item type now, which is very, very useful when you're going through and you're trying to deal with 50 things. You don't know which bug belongs to which parent and that sort of thing, so that is quite useful. First fail of the day, awesome. Instant search for work items. So now, if you go and look at the search bar at the top now, you can, as you start typing, you can go now searching for work items. I certainly know in the organisation we're in, when people have a horrible habit of just giving you a work item number. Right, that means nothing to me. Or they give you the description and not the number, so you don't know what it is. So to find it now is going to be a lot easier. For us, not so much, because we're on-prem. If you're in the cloud, obviously much better. So there it is, search for work items as you type. You can even add other little things like A colon, ST colon, and so on. When you bring it up, it actually lets you, there's another example there, comment. You can say, look in the comment field, colon, for the to-do. So that's quite a nice little feature. Changing the process used by project. How many of us actually wanted to do this? You created your project by mistake in Scrum and you actually wanted Agile. Well, now you can. This was in preview for about 2 months. So now you can actually go in. It's a bit of a pain to get to, but if you look at the all processes, for example, my screen, you can see what projects are it. You can now go and change the process. So I shall attempt demo number 2. Let's see. It's organisation settings. You go into your process. Scrum processes, what projects are using Scrum process, go into gear, you can now change the process. What's your target process? Obviously, if you've got customizations, you're probably going to lose them. Okay, so hence the general advice is don't change it. It should be good enough for most people. So that was a nice one. Who here uses Jira? This will be the first meeting where no one uses Jira. You do? Okay, well, you now have an Azure pipeline app for Jira, for those of you that want it. Okay. It can be useful.
Yeah, okay. I'm curious as to what, yeah.
So there is one for Teams and there's one for Slack now as well. But what this lets you do, it basically lets you link your Jira tasks and everything else into the pipeline build as well. So you can actually kick things off and see what issue was fixed with what build and that sort of thing as well. So that's a nice little integration. I haven't actually tried this, so I'm taking it on faith that works nicely. Improvements to the Azure pipeline for Slack. So if you do have this, you can from Slack actually say, kick off a new build or fix this work item in this build sort of thing that actually talks back into the pipelines as well as back into the Azure boards as well. So there's a nice tight integration there. Similar with Microsoft Teams as well. They went Slack first, go figure, and only then put the Teams one in as well. So, but there is a nice integration between the two. The Azure pipelines, there's now a single hosted pool. If in the past you've had a look at what in your Azure pipelines, you've got all these hosted agents and all these pools with all separate things in it, they've now consolidated all of that into one. So 2017, 2015, all that sort of stuff is now sitting in one agent hosted pool, so you don't have to have all these multiple agent pools around if you don't want to. They are still there though. And they've updated the pool interface and the organisation settings as well. So I have a look. Just want to work over there. If I have a look at agent pools, for example, this interface has changed a lot. So you can see there's now an Azure Pipelines agent pool. Obviously I've got nothing in there, but that interface is a lot better than it was. Lot cleaner, a lot nicer, a lot faster, and just a bit easier to manage. So
What's the agent, if I can ask a question, what is the Azure Pipelines agent pool? What is it? I mean, I know what an agent is, but so you should use that then for your pipelines?
yes.
Yeah.
So, but basically, if you've got other agent pools, so you might have an agent pool for VS 2017 or an agent pool for NPM or an agent pool for this, you don't need to now, it's all in one. You can all have it all in one.
Is it the case that precedents or activities got out of kilter and they just want to coordinate it better? Or?
I think people complained that it got too confusing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just want one thing now, right? I'm sick of dealing with the minutiae of all these other little bits and pieces. Whilst it's great to have the flexibility, I don't care. I think the industry's going that way a lot. It's like, that's the whole point of automation, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't really care.
I don't care, I just want it to work. In one of the blog posts I've got coming up, it was very, very good, where it talks about the percentage of effort and time that on a project you should spend on the technical, the business, and the actual people part of it. As engineers, we think it's 100%, don't we? It's actually such a small part, the technology choice. It's such a small part of your entire project.
Let's go back one quickly. I just want to see your agents again.
So you got hosted Mac, hosted
I don't even have an
Mac
option
Zero.
to select that one.
Sorry?
I don't have an option to see it like you, but
Yeah, so have you gone into your preview features and enabled everything?
let's just check the
So that might be why. And also, this wasn't here at the beginning of the week for me. I looked at it last night and it was there. So go figure. Australia is probably one of the last rings to, but it's actually not right, because if you look at the rings, the way they roll it out, Australia is actually the second one. And the rest of the world comes in after that, because, you know, they've got their internal ring for release, and then you've got Australia because it's not big, but it's not small, so it's a nice test bed.
I thought it was the case that the sun rose on us first, and if they stuffed up, they can roll back before they get to it.
Or the cynic in me says, it's Australia who gives the monkeys. Right? that's theory. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. So that's the agent pool. So a couple of small ones as well. A lot of these things are part of what they call project paper cuts, which is getting rid of all those little annoying things that hurt you over time, that make you want to, you know, you put up with it, and they say, I'm done, and walk away. Support for large test attachments. I think it was at 100 meg, it's now higher. So why would you have a 100 meg test attachment? I don't know. Ask the testers in the room.
If they're recording.
Fair, but yeah, okay, cool. Deployments in your YAML pipeline, and Optimizely integration. Nobody would, I've got no idea. There's a product called Optimizely.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it does.
Sorry, optimises something.
Optimises something. Well, one would assume so, yes. So it does something, but now obviously there's our task for it as well in the pipeline stuff. Still on the pipelines, you can now add a GitHub release as an artifact source. So in your artifacts, you can now have a source as your GitHub release. Before you couldn't actually do that. So useful for those that need it. You can pay for additional pipelines from the Azure DevOps portal now, because, you know, everyone wants to do that. Probably not. Anyway, it's obviously been an ask from some customers that instead of having to go through the whole Azure side of the fence, to actually go through and manage it that way, you can have it through the portal. It's a bit easier. You can now approve releases directly from the releases hub. Didn't realise you couldn't do that before. Now you can. Azure Kubernetes cluster link in Kubernetes environment resource view. It's not a big one really. Obviously another paper cut. Release folder filters in notification subscriptions. So this might help a few people here. So when you're editing your subscriptions on your notifications, you can now filter on folder paths. So you're not getting blasted just because this whole project changed. You're only interested in if this folder inside that project changed as well. So that'll help. You can now deploy external Git repositories to Azure Kubernetes services. I don't know about you, but some of these things start to just sound like words. The older I get, I don't know.
There's a new word every day, every week.
Yeah. What's the other one I saw? Cube and Cuttle something. It's all spelled with a K. Complement. Anyway. Support for Bitbucket repositories and DevOps projects for those of us that are yearning to use Bitbucket. I'm sure there are people out there. Select a Docker file in the deployment center for AKS and web app containers. So
That's cool.
that's pretty cool. That'll help a lot of people. There's a new test plan page that's now in public preview. I'm sure the testers in the room would love that. I'm not a tester. My stuff always works. I don't need testing.
Yeah.
Well, it's better than it was, but look at that.
Yeah, I'm not writing code anymore.
No, I was meaning the test plans page.
Is it better, is it?
It's better than it was.
That's not exactly an endorsement, is it? Auditing for Azure repo events as well now. So for those of you that aren't aware, all the events that happen inside of Azure DevOps are now audited. So you can now actually get to what's happened. If you go into your organisation settings, you'll see that there's an auditing section there. You can even download them and do what you want to do with them as well. I think that's been done in response to organisations like mine, which have said no, we're not going because there's not enough governance and so on around it. So they're improving that as they go. There's improvements to the feed page load time. Obviously, something was going on there. Rich editing code for wiki pages. It's out of interest. Who actually does use the wiki pages?
We do.
You do? Are they any good for you? Because I certainly know the on-prem version that we're on is lacking.
I'd rather than mark down on VS Code and just copy it in there.
You guys use VS Code to do it.
Yeah.
I think you're doing that. Because
It's just-
certainly our people just don't hate it. They hate doing it.
But because, yeah, it's alright if you know your markdown, you can just, it's alright.
I'm with you. The tables are a pain in the ass. Though.
Yeah. But it still renders it correctly if you do it markdown wise.
Yeah. Okay.
With this dashes and
I
stuff.
mentioned that to a few guys.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Create and embed work items from a wiki page. So that's pretty cool. So you can go embed your actual work items inside a wiki page as well.
Mm.
So that can be useful when you're building boards and so on. So that was it for the sprint 154. Then sprint 155, which is the new one, which is some of the stuff wasn't available to me, probably might be now. You can now invite GitHub collaborators into Azure DevOps. So in a previous release, they actually allowed you to sign into Azure DevOps with your GitHub account. So you can kind of start to see that the integration between the two services is now becoming tighter and tighter and tighter.
It's good, yeah.
Even to the point where I've seen recommendations from Donovan Brown and so on, is that if you're going to start new greenfield stuff, probably push it into a GitHub repo rather than
Then you're going to move away
TFEs.
from it.
Yeah, they're going to move away from it. It's not going away because there's still a lot of people that are still invested in TFEC. And TFEC still does make some sense for some organisations. So I don't think that's ever going away. But the amount of investment occurring in the TFEC side of the fence is not a lot compared to what's going on in the GitHub side of the fence. So I think everyone can see the writing on the wall there. With the Azure boards, there's now 3 new Azure board reports. I can't show you them because all my projects don't have real data in it, but if you go have a look at the link to the Sprint 155, they've got some very good examples of some of the things you can now do with those boards. They're actually pretty slick. There's an example of a burn down trend and an example of cumulative flow diagram, which I never really understood what that actually meant, but for those of you that understand it, you can now customise them as well. So from a reporting perspective, a lot better. There's the Azure Boards app for Slack. Okay. Once again, I find this terribly interesting how they invest in Slack before they invest in Teams for a lot of this stuff. It's sort of interesting. But I think that just shows you that the Azure DevOps team is different to the Office team. So
It doesn't make even sense, even though it's different, they should be, but I think they want to I don't think they really care at this stage, they just want to get it out. A lot of people use Slack for like, little chats and
trying to get
notifications
to
and
a broader
things.
market.
I think it's 2 different things though. So if you have a look at a lot of the things that go on here, it's not about Microsoft first, it's more about we just want to use
Yeah,
the
that's what
service.
I
We
mean.
don't care what else you use. You can use Teams, you can use Slack, you can use Jira, whatever. We actually don't care. And I think that's a good thing. And also, I think because of the way they split it up into separate services, which you can now purchase separately, you don't have to buy the whole thing. You can just say, I just want boards, or I just want repos, or I just want artifacts. I think that's been very smart. I think you can see the way the winds are blowing is that, no, I think there's even been talk about open sourcing bits of Windows itself, which you would never have ever heard of, 20 years ago. So anyway, you can now customize your taskboard columns as well. You can rename them, you can add new ones as well. I can't do it because it hasn't hit my tenant yet, so I can't show you. Toggle to show or hide completed work items in the backlog. That's actually very useful because how many times if you have your backlog and it's got everything completed in it, you actually don't care about them now because they're done. You can now toggle them off. That I think is a very useful one. You can search for boards, backlogs, queries and Sprint from the instant search box. So it's actually, that bit I think was available, so cancel out of that if I do this over here. Certainly in the code section of it, it's a lot better than it was. I'm just going to look at one of these. There's a whole bunch of extra things now you can type. So the search is actually a lot nicer now. There used to be a whole heap more in here. They've reduced it down, and you can just type, for example, extension code and just look at everything about extension. So I've done a lot of work on the search. Now that applies to reports, backlogs, queries, and sprints from the instant search box. So I've done a lot of work on that. The most recent tags are displayed with tagging a work item. You know, so you've got a work item, you're putting your tag in. I've certainly known in the past if the tag you just had was right down the bottom of the list, you'd have to scroll down. Now as you start typing on your next one, it'll be the last one that you put in. So little paper cut. There's those in improved search filtering options. Coverage metrics and branch policies for pull requests. More words. Basically, I think it's allowing you to add more code coverage metrics into your pull request now. So, as part of your pull request, when you create it, it'll go and do some code coverage metrics extra than what you had before. You can filter comment notifications from pull requests now as well. Service hooks for pull request comments. So, you might want to, you've seen the service hook, you might have a new service hook subscription. Yeah, I couldn't get it to work because it wasn't available in my tenant again, for whatever reason. And you can now share your packages publicly with public feeds in your Azure database. There it was. See? Isn't that cool? Customize and compose. Really? Seriously. It's
As a bake-off.
It's Kubernetes stuff, right? Hence the cut, right? It's just wow. As bake-offs just in Kubernetes manifest tasks, it's starting to get ridiculous now. Some of these things. There's Yum and oh gee. But yeah, whatever. Support for cluster admin credentials in the Helm deploy tasks. I have to admit I haven't